Good morning, Seekers. You'll notice today's reading passage, Shot Heard Round the World, the Battles of Lexington and Concord, are pretty lengthy. And as I'm reading it, you're probably going to see a lot of unfamiliar words. I've gone back and forth whether I wanted to stop reading and to just tell you in detail what each of these words mean. But I've ultimately decided I am just going to read it through and trust that you will call if you don't understand anything, or you'll email or text, or when we get on Teams, we'll be able to discuss it. So without further ado, as I have been fond of saying lately, I'm just going to get into reading it and the questions, and then any questions we have at the end, we'll be able to call, text, team, meet. We have so many ways to communicate with help with understanding this. So, I begin. Following resolutions made by the Continental Congress, armed conflict seemed imminent. King George, who declared the colonies in a state of rebellion, had authorized the deliverance of British soldiers to reinforce those who had occupied Boston since 1768. General Thomas Gage was sent to Boston to disarm the colonists and arrest the leaders of the rebellion, namely John Hancock and Samuel Adams. After learning of the existence of a large colony arsenal in Concord, about 20 miles southwest of Boston, General Gage sent a detachment of 700 troops under Colonel Francis Smith to march to Concord for the purposes of seizing and destroying artillery and ammunition. The colonists, however, already knew their weapons were in jeopardy and had moved most of them to a secret location before the arrival of the Redcoats. As the British troops mobilized in Boston, Dr. Joseph Warren alerted members of the Sons of Liberty, Paul Revere and William Dawes. Dawes promptly rode to Concord to warn Hancock and Adams, and Revere rode through the countryside yelling, "The regulars are coming," or "The regulars are out." By dawn, about 70 armed Minutemen, the Massachusetts militia, had gathered in the Lexington town common, awaiting the arrival of the Redcoats. Gage's own wife, Margaret Campbell Gage, is thought to have given Warren information about her husband's planned raid in sympathy to the Revolution. When the British arrived on the scene, someone fired a shot that would become known as the shot heard round the world. To this day, historians disagree on which side fired first, or if the shot came from a spectator. Nevertheless, the Redcoats subsequently unleashed devastating volleys before charging the Minutemen with their bayonets. As the Redcoats marched on to Concord, 8 Minutemen were killed and 10 wounded. As the march continued, the numbers of Minutemen arriving from surrounding towns swelled, and the substantial militia retreated to a ridge about a mile from Concord, across the North Bridge. Meanwhile, British troops had occupied Concord, destroyed several cannons, and burned leftover ammunition. A gun battle erupted as the two sides crossed on the North Bridge. In stunning turn of events, the Minutemen held the bridge, forcing the Redcoats to retreat. As the Redcoats exited Concord on their way back to Boston, hundreds or even thousands of farmers and other colonial workers had positioned themselves behind trees, rocks, in pastures, under bridges, and places they could not be seen by the Redcoats, firing at them as they marched on. Desperate Redcoats, frustrated by an enemy they could not see, and in revenge for the brutal scalping of one of their dead, sometimes pillaged houses and communities along the way, killing dozens of colonists. Colonial militia, however, continued to snipe away at the lines of Redcoats. By the time they finally made it back to Boston, 73 Redcoats were killed and 174 wounded. The American Revolution had officially begun. Wow, and I thought yesterday's story was exciting. So now I'm going to quickly read each of the questions. There's 10 questions. Again, at the end of each question, pause the video, look up text evidence, look up your answer, then come back and hit play for the next question. When did the British troops begin their occupation of Boston? A. After the battles of Lexington and Concord. B. During the search for weapons. C. 1768. D. Following resolutions made by the Continental Congress. Number 2. What does "in jeopardy" mean in the following sentence? The colonists, however, already knew their weapons were in jeopardy and had moved most of them to secret locations before the arrival of the redcoats. Does jeopardy mean A. damaged, B. destroyed, C. safe, or D. threatened? Number 3. Which of the following was not a reason General Gage was sent to Boston? A. To arrest Benjamin Franklin. B. To arrest John Hancock. C. To arrest Samuel Adams. D. To disarm the colonists. Number 4. Which of the following best describes Margaret Kemble Gage? A. Concerned for no one. B. Concerned for her husband. C. Concerned for the colonists. D. Concerned for herself. Number 5. Why was the first shot of the Revolutionary War known as the shot heard round the world? Shots occurred all around the world. B. The cannon fire was very loud. C. It changed the course of world history. D. Many people lost their lives. 6. Who fired the first shot? A. The British. B. The Patriots. C. A spectator. D. No one knows. 7. What happened as the redcoats marched on to Concord? A. The Minutemen fled. B. The militia grew. C. The Americans were defeated. D. None of the above. Number 8. Which of the following happened first? A. The confrontation at the North Bridge. B. Minutemen gathered at the Lexington Town Common. C. The redcoats marched from Concord back to Boston. D. The American Revolution had begun. Number 9. Which of the following best describes the redcoats as they marched back to Boston? A. Confident. B. Bored. C. Vulnerable. D. Hungry. I feel like that one's kind of a trick. Did they even mention their tummies? Number 10. Which of the following is not true? 73 redcoats were killed by the time they made it back to Boston. B. Many redcoats were killed by Minutemen who hid behind rocks and trees. C. The colonists had prepared for the confiscation of their weapons by the British. D. The ride of Paul Revere was nothing but a legend. That means it didn't really happen. So, there's all 10 questions. Again, listen to the story more than once. Pause each question as long as you need to research your answer. And as always, call, text, email, hop on to Teams when we have our meetings and ask. We're here to help. Bye-bye.